there's a whole nother can of worms that everyone seems to be ignoring. And it's completely separate from what we were just talking about, the pandemic agreement. There's an existing document, goes all the way back to 1969, called the International Health Regulations. The United States is still a member of that. I haven't heard Donald Trump or his administration say one word about that agreement. That is in place. That is international law. It's legally binding. And on June 1st of 2024, amendments were adopted when the United States was, participating, and they were adopted. And there is a time period by which every individual nation has the opportunity to write a very simple letter to the WHO and say, no, thank you. We reject those amendments for our nation. We'll continue to abide by what the IHR, International Health Regulations, were before those amendments. Now, that's absolutely possible because a couple of years prior, they passed some amendments, and 4 nations, Iran, Slovakia, Netherlands, and New Zealand, wrote such a letter and said, no, thank you. And so the deadline for that rejection is July 19th, coming up 2025. And, no one is talking about that because, quite frankly, the pandemic agreements, the last week of May, that's the time, priority. But Americans are blind and deaf to the fact that, wait a minute, we are not out of this by any stretch of the imagination.
So would you say that local laws and regulations are definitely affected and related to the IHR regulations? Like they use the IHR regulations to set local laws.
It's a guideline, and they try to reach these goals. And ultimately, and this happens on every level of government, one level of government, you've seen this so many times. You go and you try to push back, and they go, oh, sorry, it's because of that department. And then you go to that department, and they go, oh, no, sorry, it's because of that department. And they shuttle you back and forth. They want to lay blame on anybody but themselves. And so what the IHR is really all about, and I'll try to give the very, very quick view because we could be here for days. It's an agreement for nations to report, oh, there's something going on in our nation, some outbreak, some problem. And as soon as they find out, they're supposed to have facilities in place that they immediately let the WHO know. And then the WHO is supposed to spread the word around, to everyone else in the world. That's the core function of the IHR. And in each nation, the rules that they have for that surveillance can be incredibly draconian. And so wealthy nations have spent billions of dollars, I believe, fraudulently using the PCR process to go checking their poultry operations or their dairy farms or their septic, wastewater treatment plants, looking for problems to create, this fear of, oh my God, there's another outbreak and you're all going to die. And the reason for these negotiations is poor nations around the world don't have the money to do that. And the agreements are designed to take money from wealthy nations and organizations and the World Bank and all that, funnel it to the poor nations so that they can look for these, scary pathogens, because when they find a scary pathogen, they want to share it. That's what I mentioned, the pathogen access and benefit sharing system. They want to set up this worldwide network to go find pathogens that are not necessarily causing any problems. The term they use is pathogens with pandemic potential. And I interpret that with an extra P. They're pathogens with pandemic profiteering potential.